Hello and welcome to Enchantment of Eternity's review for Through the Looking Glass, which is episode 19 of season 3 of Star Trek Deep Space Nine. This video is a part of a series of videos where I review episodes of Star Trek Deep Space Nine, one episode at a time. In this video, I cover the third season episode, Through the Looking Glass. So Through the Looking Glass is the episode in which Smiley, the evil O'Brien from the Mirror Universe, comes over to Deep Space Nine to steal Captain Sisko, kidnap him, and bring him to the Mirror Universe, where he proposes that he goes on a mission posing as the Mirror Sisko, who is now dead, in order to convince Mirror Sisko's wife, who just so happens to be the mirror version of Sisko's wife, Jennifer, to stop helping the Alliance come up with this powerful weapon that will defeat the rebels and kill them all, and to turn her to their side. And so, knowing that he couldn't just let Jennifer die again, he decides to take on the mission, which includes posing as Sisko, punching Bashir to prove a point, and posing as this evil Sisko version. And he goes to Deep Space Nine, and he's able to convince Jennifer, who absolutely hates and despises him, and he speaks to her on sort of a level coming from a place of love. So he talks her into betraying them. However, the Alliance is on to them and knows that what they're up to, and so hunt after them and trap them in a corner. But Sisko knows the access codes to Deep Space Nine, which is Tarek Noor, and is able to start the self-destruct sequence, and only he can disable it, so they agree to let them go in order to save the station. And now that Jennifer is safe, Sisko is going to return home. However, Jennifer has one last talk with him because she realizes that it is definitely not her husband, and he says that, to ask Smiley about it, but says that he gets to go home after saving her, and so she appreciates it, and he leaves. So this is the second Mirror Universe episode in Deep Space Nine. Trying to remember how they did. So how many they did. They did one season 2, one season 3, one season 4. I think they skipped season 5. They did one season 6 and one season 7. So I think there's 5 of them in total. It seems like a lot more because it's too many. I heard someone else describe it as a sort of series with diminishing returns, and 100% that is the case. It just, each episode keeps getting worse than the previous one. Now, I covered crossover already, which I love. In fact, I was as bold to say that I thought it was even better than Mirror Mirror. Just slightly. If you take the nostalgia glasses off, most people can, I think. But anyway, I think it's just slightly better than Mirror Mirror. But here's the thing, and this is what I talked about when I talked about crossover, is that it captures that feeling of dread, of being in a haunted house, like a house of horrors, like trapped in a demented, insane reality, where you feel like you could die at any moment and danger is always around the corner. That's why I like Mirror Mirror. And crossover had that same feeling, that same fucked up feeling where Bashir had to process, or he tried to break out, and every turn he could have died. Like, people were plotting to execute him, people were plotting to execute Kira. They were all like right on the edge, and there was a real fucked up place where Sisko is like acting like a pirate, and O'Brien is a coward, and Odo and Kira are evil. Like, it really, the same sort of twisted, fucked up experience that we got with Mirror Mirror. And this is the first episode in which we lose that. From now, like, Crossover is the only episode that actually, in Deep Space, the Mirror episode in Deep Space Nine that actually has that. This episode completely loses that. Instead, we get it has more of a swashbuckling sort of adventure feel to it, and it comes off as a bit more goofy. There's no sense of, even when Sisko's like running for his life on the station, you don't have that sense of urgency, that sense of horror, that sense of direness. And when this happens, when they do that, when they play down this sense of being trapped or sense of trying to escape a madhouse, it kind of accentuates the campiness. Now, people will often talk about the mirror universe in terms of campiness, but here's the thing. Yes, the campiness is always there. I'm not gonna try to assert otherwise, but it was not overt and present in your face in Mirror Mirror and in Crossover. But from this point onward, yeah, pretty much. So we had this Shattered Mirror, what's it called? It's not Renaissance, it's Resurrection, that's what it was. And Emperor's New Cloak. And then you have In the Mirror Darkly in Enterprise, and then the various Season 1 episodes in Discovery. And I will say that I feel like Discovery did bring back that sense of horror, that sense of dread, that sense of danger on the edge. It was the first Mirror Universe episode since Crossover to have that. But Discovery also has a whole other ball of wax of problems which are unrelated to this, so I won't get into that. But at least it was able to bring back that feeling of dread. As much as I love In the Mirror Darkly, which I do, it is just, the campiness was too much. It was too present. It all was over the top, and I'm sorry, Scott Bakula's terrible in that episode, and it was all about the campiness and the fun, where it's not supposed. That's not what made Mirror Mirror great, and that's not what made Crossover great. It's not that about campiness and fun. It's about horror. It's about being in a fucked up dimension where you could die at any second, and it's crazy and fucked up, and shows how evil people can become if history plays out differently. And because that's what made Crossover and Mirror Mirror great, is that those were still the people. Like, that Kira intendant was still Kira. Like, they went out of their way to showcase, like, they shared aspects, that it was the same person. But starting in this episode and going forward, characters like Kira, and in particular the Intendant, are just mustache-twirly caricatures. They're not characters anymore. They're just evil, and it's just an excuse to have the actors act all crazy and campy and over the top, and that's what they did in the Mirror Darkly as well. Which is not what made Mirror Mirror and Crossover great. It's not about them being all campy and putting it over the top and doing your mustache twirly villains. It's the fact that these people, this is the person. Like, that really was, evil Spock. That really was evil Sulu. That really was evil Kira. Like, these are the people, and they're the same person, and this is how they would have turned out had history played out a little bit differently. But they just exaggerating over the top and like, oh, this is your evil self. And yeah. And now, granted, this episode's not the worst. As I said, diminishing returns. It will get worse and worse and worse as it goes. But this is definitely a huge step down from Crossover. And mostly what I have to say about this episode, and specifically, is it's fine. It's like, this is when I start losing interest. Like, I was really interested in the Alliance and the Rebellion. Like, I was so excited when Pirate Sisko went off to form this rebellion. It's like, Smiley! Like, at the end of Crossover, like, that was exciting stuff. come to this, it kind of makes it a little boring. It makes it so I don't really care. And of course, it doesn't really. The reason why they didn't have, evil Dex in crossover is because she's not a human. She's a Trill. This is about humanity being enslaved by the Alliance. So why are there Vulcans and Trills and Ferengi helping the human rebellion? I mean, maybe where they have sorry to use this term, but humanitarian motivations? Are they also, or have their people also been enslaved by the Alliance, and they're fighting with humanity? It's just an excuse to get Dax on, and of course have Bashir there. That's like a lot of serendipity. that it just so happens a mirror version of these same characters are there. But there was always serendipity there, but it's just more. It's much greater in this episode. And of course the whole thing with Tuvok. I don't really have an issue with that. I think it was cool that they didn't make a huge deal out of it, and he just popped up out of nowhere. It's like, holy shit, that's Tuvok. And you could say it was shameless promotion of Voyager, but not really, because they didn't unless you already knew he was on Voyager, you would never notice it. He would just blend in with the rest of the show. But yeah, I did think that was cool. I love that they did that, though, because it makes it feel like a lived-in, a connected universe. And I love whenever they do stuff like that. And he wasn't really in it that much, he just appeared for that one scene. But I guess I'll get to the heart of the matter, though, of what I actually do like about this episode. Why it doesn't just suck or just completely mediocre. Because the one thing that they did get right is the storyline with Jennifer. Quality of the actress who plays her notwithstanding, which I don't think she's that terrible. I've heard some other people really rip her apart, and she's definitely not the best. But I don't have that big of a complaint with her acting. But regardless, it's a very interesting storyline. And I love how they touch on it, because this is something I think the show mostly forgets, because this is what they introduced Sisko as someone who lost his wife, and that's the very first scene of the entire show, and they don't really touch back on it that often. They kind of moved away from it, so I thought it was nice to get this reminder. And the reason why it works and is so powerful is because it affects our character, the one we know, Sisko, the main character. And how, even though he knows it's not his actual wife, but it's a version of his wife, and that when faced with the opportunity to save her life, he just can't pass it up. And how the feeling, and how that would feel for him, because it's not his Jennifer, and he knows it, but still it is a version of Jennifer. And so how that makes him feel, being able to save her life, how that could be sort of rewarding for him in a way. And I think the implications to that are very complex and very fascinating, and it's a great character story for Sisko. So that's the only avenue of this episode that I think really works. I like the scenes between them, and they're arguing, and I think best of all was the scene at the end when Jennifer figured out, he's like, oh, I want to tell you so much, and she was like, you can start by telling me who you are and what happened to my husband. I love that she figured it out, that it's definitely not him. But it is kind of a shame that the evil Sisko died off screen. So some questions. How is it that Sisko knew exactly how his mirror universe character behaved, because he's able to imitate him perfectly. So they're afraid, and the way he like talks exactly like him, and you know, smarty, and like over the top. Like, how did he know that? Like, I know he read Kira's reports or whatever, but it's not the same as actually seeing the exact mannerisms and the exact manner of speaking and the cadence of the speech. Like, how is he able to match all of this from reading a report? I don't buy it. I don't buy it. You call it a nitpick if you like, but I don't buy it. And also, another main complaint that I do have, but this is more of a complaint in the Shattered Mirror, but it also applies here, but it's worse than that episode, is I don't like how they change focus from Kira and Bashir to Sisko. And yeah, the next episode makes it more of a Sisko thing, which, I mean, I kind of get why they did that for both these episodes, just because it's the story with Jennifer. They wanted to play up the story with Jennifer, and so they wanted to have Sisko there, but it doesn't really make sense for Smiley to come to, you know, the Prime universe and kidnap Sisko, the person he never met. And yeah, I don't know. I just think it would have been better if Kira returned, or Bashir. I don't know. The sudden shift to Sisko kind of annoyed me a bit. But again, as I say, it's actually much, much worse in the next episode. Yeah, and having Dax be Sisko's concubine is like, why? Like, why? Like, this is something other people brought up. Like, Sisko made it clear that he sees Dax as like this mentor figure. He sees him like this old man. He calls him old man all the time, and it's just, I guess I could imagine him being willing to sleep with her in order to keep his cover. But why even bother with this? Like, and then there's the whole, you know, situation, the fact that he's making love to her under false pretenses, which she will rightfully, like, hit him and threaten to stab him over. Which is just, this is a whole ball of wax of issues which the show just should have avoided. Just don't, like, it seems a bit like sensationalism, just like kind of to make it edgy, like in the same vein of like the telepathic rape scenes from Star Trek Nemesis. Like, this is why. This is no, just don't. Just why? It's better off without it. It's just flat out. But yeah, and the way this is the first time we see Mira Bashir as well, and yeah, I don't know. Again, it turns more campy, and again, maybe it's just as campy as Crossover, but the difference is that, especially like that outfit that the Intendant's wearing, that was made in Crossover, and that's like a what they call it, a gimp. Like, it's just a full-on dominatrix like outfit. It's like very campy and ridiculous, and especially the way that they portray her. Now, I think they might have implied that, well, yes, they definitely implied that she was bisexual because she was hitting on a Prime timeline Kira. But here they outright showed her with, you know, with a man and a woman. And that's a whole ball of wax as well of issues, because I think other people brought this up when it portrays bisexuality as promiscuity, as kind of evil. It's like, ooh, look at how fucked up and evil this parallel universe. Even Kira is bisexual. Like, and yeah, they'll make it worse again in future episodes. And even Discovery, like, even though they have like very positive portrayal of LGBTQ community, there's still that stereotype of associating, like, oh, look at how fucked up look at how immoral this universe is. Everyone is just being bisexual. Like, I don't know, you might think I'm being woke or whatever bullshit, phrase you want to say, but I think it's definitely a concern. I think it's definitely, it bothers me. But anyway, yeah, I mean, that's pretty much all I gotta say about this episode. It's really unremarkable compared to Crossover. I mean, you get Crossover has so much great lines with like Garrick saying, "I do admire well-tailored gown," and just the nuances, the way that they played on the subtle nuances where you could tell these characters were still the same. None of that clever writing is here. Like, as I said, the only thing that really holds, I mean, the whole thing with Rom double-crossing them was like, who cares? And when they were being chased, the one thing I do remember about this episode is when they're chasing Sisko and the gang through the corridors of Deep Space or Terra Nor, and Garrick yells at the security people. He goes, "Pursue!" I'd always quote that. I would always imitate that a lot. "Pursue!" Which is weird the way he said that. But other than that, there's nothing really memorable about it. Like the way that Crossover, you quote that like crazy. "Some sort of Hoyle chief of operations." Like a lot of great lines and quotes, and the way that Sisko is behaving. And just again, the tension's palatable. You can cut it with a knife in that episode, but here it's just it's kind of just it's just generic. Anyway, so I would now like to thank all those that support me on Patreon. It's very much appreciated. Helps me continue with the channel. Very thankful for everyone who supports me, especially Brandon Nealhouse, Jordan Johnson, and Antarius. Thank you all so very, very much for your strong support. But I'd also like to give a shout out to Tyler Cease, Benjamin Mead, Greg Marley, Francisco, Chuck Hooks, Kyrie091, Anthony D. Benedictus, Ricky, Matty Jester, Joe Lavals, Alessandro Michelaccio, Norman Buckwald, Stephen Kennedy, Brenton Berg, and Allison Fordyce. Thank you also very much for your support. So, let's see. We should have a few patron comments on this episode. I believe that we do. Sorry, just scrolling up. Alright, so first comment is from Kyrie091, who says, "Through the looking glass, more like, ooh, this one is ass." I don't know. These Mirror Universe episodes aren't that interesting to me. I guess they're kind of funny and a nice break from the tension when you're slogging through 7 seasons of DS9. They should just do what Enterprise did, and I don't mean their Mirror Universe episode. That one was good during the intro, but then sucked after that. What DS9 should have done is had Sisko say ass. That would have changed everything. Have Mirror Universe Sisko say it. Oh wait, that would be sinister. The only good Mirror Universe bit in DS9 is when Vic Fontaine dies. I could watch that scene over and over. Fontaine way. So yes, they should have stopped with the Mirror Universe after Crossover. That should have been the only Mirror Universe episode. At first I liked the idea, I liked the concept of making the universe a running thing, but it's just, after that episode, you just didn't care. You just didn't care what happened in this universe. Anyway, next comment is from Tyler Cease, who says, "The idea of Sisko being thrust into a mirror universe and having to assume the role of his deceased counterpart is an intriguing premise that keeps you on the edge of your seat. The emotional weight of the episode is palatable, with Sisko grappling with the possibility of losing his wife for a second time. The exploration of moral ambiguity, don't know why I'm tripping on that word, and the consequences of one's action in this episode is thought-provoking and adds depth to the story. The performance of Avery Brooks, Kalmini, and the rest of the cast are top-notch and really bring the complex emotions of the characters to life. Well, I don't know, I think you're being a little bit too generous, but that's just me. Next comment is from Antarius, who says, not as great as the first DS9 Mirror Universe installment, but still a good episode. I totally forgot that Tim Russ appeared on this episode. Seems like Sisko had a good time in the Mirror Universe with Mirror, Dax, and Kira. I found it hard to believe that Kira and Garrick allowed Benjamin and Jennifer to talk to each other without any surveillance, and I find it even harder to believe that the station has exactly the same command code. Next week on DS9, Mirror Morn crosses over with a shipload of Mirror Vols. My rating is a 7 out of 10. Yeah, I forgot to talk about the moles and Morn. That was actually a funny scene at the start where you know, they were trying to set up these mole fights, and Quark's like, what? We were just trying to catch moles. It was infested. It was like, you were painting numbers on them. It's like, oh, we were just trying to count them. And they're like, what? Do you think Morn was involved? And he tried to blame it all on Morn. That was nice. And eventually, when instead of getting rid of the voles, confiscating the voles, Quark is like, Morn's going to be crushed. Yeah, I love a good Morn joke. Yeah, and I can see why you would forget Tim Russ is in the episode. It is kind of forgettable. It doesn't really stand out. It's like, oh yeah, like it's kind of like Quark being in Firstborn. It's like it's just a thing. But yeah, and I totally agree with you on Garrick allowing Benjamin and Jennifer to talk in private. I got that as well. And you also brought up a good point that Sisko didn't just sleep with Dax, he also slept with Kira. Like, how weird is that going to be for him, like, working with these co-workers, knowing that he slept with, you know, versions of them that looked and were pretty much exactly the same, or at least physically. Yeah, wouldn't that be weird for him? Like, why would they do this? I don't know. I just don't know why even bother doing it. It just has a level of weirdness to it. Anyway, next comment is from Norman Buchwald, who says, I'll be honest, I really wish the only Mirror episode in DS9 was crossover. That was such a powerful episode, especially as a Kira Nerys episode, and definitely provided an interesting further portrayal / depiction canonically of the Mirror universe. Everything after that, let's say with each corresponding Mirror episode, the descent in quality was certainly felt. The difference in characters became caricatures, especially with the Intendant. She's just a vamp after complexity in the original episode. And by the time we get to season 7, boy, is it unwatchable. Let alone seriously homophobic, because you can only have same-sex situations if you are bad and corrupt. But let's get back to this one. This is clearly written as an adventure episode of Sisko, and if you overlook ethics, the Prime Directive, etc., I guess it could even be a bit enjoyable. Unfortunately, Sisko decides to sleep with the alternate Jadzia. Seriously, strike one. And then there's the less than stellar acting from Jennifer. Obviously, there was never an intention for her to appear again, maybe as a prophet. And what we have here is, well, not good. And then the attempted cameo of Tuvok, which obviously those working on Prodigy seem to totally have forgotten about. Well, unless there's some Terran as rogues that somehow got into the Delta Quadrant and Tuvok wasn't on it. But you know what I mean. At best, this is an average episode. I'll give it a 5 out of 10. Yeah, well, I mean, I think the homophobia kind of started in this episode, but it's only vaguely present, whereas season 7, it's like obvious. It's like huge. God, don't even get me started on this season 7. We'll get there eventually, but Jesus Christ. And yeah, I couldn't possibly agree with you more. That crossover should have been the only mirror universe episode. Absolutely. Yeah. I don't know what else to say. Oh, about Prodigy. My theory with Prodigy is that this is taking place in a mirror universe adjacent universe, so a different universe than this one. Because, of course, there's no alliance. And the Terran Empire is still around in the 24th century, which it shouldn't be. And I think, Lord Dex plays with that a bit in the finale as well. Their series finale, where their ship at one point turns into a Terran Empire ship. So there should be no Terran Empire in the 24th century. But there's universes that are very, very similar to the Prime one, like the ones Worf go to. So it stands to reason there could be universes very similar to the Mirror one, where the Alliance never did win, because Kirk never went to that universe and influenced Spock. That's my guess, anyway. That's my way of rationalizing what is obviously writers who don't give a shit about canon. Anyway, next comment is from Stephen Kennedy. My visionary comment. Sisko, you think Quark had something to do with this? Odo, I always investigate Quark. Miles O'Brien dies 3 times in this episode. Even the Romulans know that Odo loves Kira. Vic Fontaine isn't the worst character in the Trek franchise. If it wasn't for him, Odo and Kira wouldn't have gotten together. The Borg Queen is the worst character in Trek and should have only been in the movie First Contact. Best TNG movies by a country mile. The Borg Queen destroyed 2 TV shows, and Vic Fontaine didn't destroy anything. And don't forget he helped Nog, but I know you don't care about that. Damn right. My rating is a 10 out of 10. Distant Voices comment, which I just watched, Star Trek's Dumbest Lethian. Bad horror episode, bad makeup, bad everything except for the opening and closing scene. My rating is 4. There is still hope for you, Mr. Lethian, as a bad criminal if you ask Garrick to represent you out of 10. Through the Looking Glass comments, the actress who played Jennifer Sisko has improved since her appearance on the show, but not by much. To be honest, I think the Mirror Universe episode should have stopped after part 3, even if I think the other ones are okay, except for Vedic Baral one, which is awful. Tuvok made a strange cameo. I wonder how much it costs to fly Tuvok from the Delta Quadrant. I don't think that's how that works. Did Benjamin ever tell Prime Dax he did the wild thing with Mirror Dax? So my rating is 8. Quark, a Vol fight? I'm appalled. Do you really think that was what Morn was up to? Out of 10. So yes, Vic Fontaine is the worst character in Star Trek. You say he didn't ruin anything. I beg to differ. He ruined the finale. He ruined season 7. Now, he didn't so the finale doesn't suck, but it's not as great. It's a blemish. It could have been one of the best finales. It is one of the best finales of all time, but it could have been even better. It could have been up there with All Good Things in the Breaking Bad finale, but unfortunately I have to downgrade it because of fucking Vic Fontaine, and also downgrade season 7 because of Vic fucking Fontaine. It has one of the worst goddamn episodes when they decide to focus with them, and yes, the one where he helps out Nog sucks because it's a good concept, and it focuses on a very worthwhile issue that's written well, but the fact that they focus on Vic Fontaine and fucking Nog ruin it because they're 2 shit characters. So yes, he's the goddamn worst character. And okay, I will say the Borg Queen. is a good choice for worst character. She's definitely up there. I won't argue with that. And in fact, I will say, you said they should have stopped after First Contact. They never should have introduced her, period, point blank. Not even First Contact. First Contact would have been a much better movie without her. Yeah, the Lethian's a bad criminal. Absolutely true. Well, I think you're being generous by letting them go up to part 3. I think they should have stopped after part 1. But yeah. I think I would guess that Benjamin never told Dax that he did the wild thing with the mirror version of herself. That would make things even weirder between them. Like, how it's weird. Anyway, next comment is from Benjamin Mead, who says, not a big fan of this episode. I agree with the consensus that Crossover is the best Mirror episode, but I think I like the next Mirror episode, Sisko builds Mirror Defiant, better than this one. So I will echo what you say about Season 3 and say it is overall great and one of the best seasons of the show. I also have a lot of nostalgia for Season 3 too. My cousin would tape it off the TV and loan me the VHS when she had one full. We didn't have cable as kids, strict parents. I have vivid memories of having my braces put on or tightened and my teeth would be so sore I couldn't really chew. I would mash up graham crackers in a bowl of milk like cereal, let them get soggy, and then watch Season 3 episodes on repeat. I can especially remember this happening when watching Second Skin. But anyway, this episode is kind of boring. Season 3 overall is amazing. I agree. Well, yeah, this is definitely not one of the better episodes of Season 3. I actually like this one better than the next one, Season 4, and I will get to why when I get to that episode, but it has a lot to do with the fact that it's another Sisko episode. And I don't know, it's just, as I said, it's like diminishing returns. It gets less and less, like I care less and less about it. And it just becomes more campy, more cliche every time you see it. But that is just my humble opinion. And I used to record the episodes on the VHS and watch them over and over again as well. So I definitely definitely can relate to that a lot. So, next comment is from Brandon Neal Howells, who says, I have to agree with Norman. Crossover should have been the only Mirror Universe episode in Deep Space Nine because they keep getting progressively worse and over the top. Sisko overreacts and his wife can't act her way out of a paper bag. The Intendant would use anybody as a toy, boy or girl, and Sisko not only fucks the Intendant but arguably Dax as well. Why is there no postscript on the station where Sisko talks to Jake or Dax about his experience? And how did Tuvok get to Terek Nor from the Delta Quadrant? 2 changed authorization codes out of 10. Wow, 2. Really harsh on this episode. Yeah, and as I said, I don't think Jennifer's acting is as terrible as people say. Again, not the best. I think they hired her to do that sort of prof because I think she was actually pretty good when she was playing the prophet. She had that sort of blank, questionable stare. I think she's less good as real Jennifer, though. But, yeah, I thought she was okay in this episode. Someone else was saying they thought she got a bit better. I agree. But anyway, thank you, patrons, so much for your comments. So my rating for Through the Looking Glass out of 10 is going to be a 7. Very good. Now, this may seem overly generous, and in fact, I was second guessing myself and wondering if this is too high with all the complaints I have about it, but most of the complaints I have about it are in comparison to Crossover. It's just disappointing to see it come down so much from that great episode. So if I try to judge it on its own merits, It's just fine. It's fine. Like, I don't hate it. It's definitely starts to play up the campiness, and as I said, it doesn't have that same feeling of like, tension and suspense. It's just kind of bland. But the reason why I kept it at a 7 and didn't take it down to a 6 is because of the Jennifer storyline. I think that's actually an intriguing, good storyline. I think that is very interesting. I'm glad they brought back this character. We needed her mentioned again, how important she was to Sisko, and I love how this was how this affected Sisko. It affected our character. So that's what made me care about what was happening in this episode. Just him sort of giving a chance to save his wife that he never got before, even though he knows it's not really his wife, it still kind of is. Because it doesn't just look like her, it essentially is her. It's just what she would have been like had history played out a bit differently. So that aspect of it worked for me. So because of that, I'm going to be generous and put it all the way up to a 7, which still isn't a super high rating. But considering how bland I think everything is, I think it's a generous rating. Anyway, that's it for my review of Through the Looking Glass. If you enjoyed this review, you can help out the channel if you so desire by leaving a like, subscribing, leaving a comment. All that stuff is very helpful. If you really want to support the channel, you could consider supporting me on Patreon. There will be a link in the description below, different rewards for different tiers. I do a series of Patreon-only videos where I revisit reviews I've already done. You can leave comments that I'll read in my videos like I just did, or you can request a video for me to do that sort of thing. You can check it out if you are interested. So let's see what's coming up next on the channel. Saturday I'll be over on Patreon doing one of those Patreon exclusive videos, revisiting my review for the 2-parter Improbable Calls and The Die Is Cast. On Monday, I'll be back here on the main channel for a new review, reviewing the Voyager episode Heroes and Demons. And then on Thursday, another Voyager review, new review with cathexis. I'll have to look up how to pronounce it when I do it. Cathexis or whatever it's called. But anyway, yeah. So that's what's coming up on my channel. Be sure to check me out as I continue to cover Star Trek Deep Space Nine and Star Trek Voyager and many other Star Trek videos and other shows as well. So be sure to subscribe so you can keep up with all of that. And thanks a lot for watching.